Could it possibly be true? Yes, I think it might. In just one more sleep, Donald Trump is going to be on his way out. Joe Biden is on his way in. This week on The Read Down, your weekly progressive political hot take by the Stonewall Democratic Club, we're going to be talking about the dawn of the Biden administration, and we're going to download our sayonara to the Cheeto-in-Chief. This week, I'll be joined by my co-hosts, Ebony Murphy-Root, Jonathan Welch. We've got a special guest for you, Scott Ruiz. This is The Read Down. Welcome to The Read Down, your weekly progressive political hot take by the Stonewall Democratic Club. On today's episode, we will bid adieu to the Trump era and usher in an era of light with our new president, Joe Biden, new Vice President Kamala Harris, our new senators, one from California and two from Georgia, Democratic senators, and a new resolve in Congress. But don't worry, we will still drag and burn the GOP for filth. I'd like to welcome my co-hosts this week. Please say hello to Ebony Murphy-Root.
Happy Tuesday! Woo!
Hey, to my new neighbor in the LBC. Yes. Thanks for joining on this, the final day of Donald Trump's presidency. Can you believe it, Ebony?
Yes, finally. Oh my gosh. Woo!
At long last. And my beautiful, delicious co-host, please welcome Jonathan Welch.
Delicious. Come on. Guys, it's the end of an era, and I'm very excited about it.
As I've said, Jonathan, salt is a flavor and is therefore delicious. But so happy you could be with us on this, the final day of the Trump administration. And we've got a very special guest panelist with us this week. Please welcome to the program, Scott Ruiz.
Hello, everybody.
How's it going, Scott?
Oh, it's a good day knowing that there's one more sleep until this nightmare is over. Trust me.
Just one until our national night is over.
I think I'm just going to wear this shirt for the next week if you guys can see what it says.
Well, your name is kind of...
okay. This way.
People, yes!
Yes! Available on Etsy. No, I'm just kidding. So...
I think I've got all of our women, the Read Down women. These are our national icons. And
love it.
All hail Stacey Abrams.
Oh, absolutely.
It's important. Jonather gets mad at me when I do that, but once an episode, we got to do it.
No,
it's
for sure.
Okay. It's appropriate. It's fine. It doesn't, it blocks our faces for a minute, but that's okay.
We've got a lot of people watching right now. If you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Periscope, wherever you're watching, leave us a comment. We'll be able to read it live on air and let us know, what are you feeling on this, the final day of the Trump era, as Jonathan Welch so aptly put it. But thank you so much for joining us. And we've got a lot to cover this week. And we're going to jump right into it with our very first segment, the weekly Read Down. And it's the end of the Trump era. It ends tomorrow morning. The whiny little expletive Trump is fleeing D.C. in the morning and wants to create a moment for himself. He was asking to have this be some sort of ceremonial military exit. He was actually turned down. They said no. So he's just going to have his little disgraceful walk out. And I want to go around and just and also I don't know if this is on this, but okay. So and also he's not going to be attending Joe Biden's inauguration, which will be the first time since Andrew Jackson, since over 100 years, that a president has not attended his successor's inauguration. What are your guys' thoughts on this, the eve of the end of Trump's presidency and his disgraceful final bow, Jonathan?
Well, so I don't want to be the corrector here, but it was Andrew Johnson. We had two Andrews as president. Both were pretty bad. Andrew Johnson was impeached, one-termer, pretty racist, pretty awful, just like Donald Trump. So it's kind of fitting that, 150 some odd years later, he ends up being, the one who is going to follow in his footsteps and not go. I mean, it's so small, it's petty, and it shows just who this person is. Like, he is just someone who's in it for himself, in it for the pomp and circumstance, as long as it surrounds him. He doesn't care about democracy. He doesn't care about the sanctity of the office or the transfer of power, the peaceful transfer of power. And, it's, in some ways, it's upsetting to not see the current president go to the new inauguration. But on the other hand, after what we've lived through for the past 4 years, it's actually, I think, very appropriate that he not be there, because we don't need to see him there. I mean, this is going to be a major detox. We are going to get rid of this person. He's going to be out of our everyday. And unfortunately, because, and I know we're going to talk about this later, so I don't want to jump too far ahead, but the impeachment trial, we are going to be seeing him, in our news cycle every day for a while. So we won't be completely rid of him, but I think that the fewer places where we could see him, the better. And in talking with a few people tonight, I realized that when we wake up in the morning, because we're all in LA, I don't wake up at like 5 a.m., but because he's throwing this little temper tantrum, I usually wake up around 6:30. He'll be gone. He will be gone when we wake up.
Ebony, are you going to wake up to watch Trump do his
I may. We got a surprise day off. So thanks, Bob, our boss. And I might be up to watch this, because there was just so much during the Obama era of dog whistling about how they lacked class, and really class just meant that they weren't white. And then there was all of this language around how classy Mrs. Trump was and how classy the Trumps were. And really it just meant they were, wealthy folks. And so to see him behave in this way that's so low class and so rude and so petty and so lacking in decorum and any of that sort of Manhattan pedigree that he's so deeply desired and could never live up to see him behave in this way is just exactly who I think he is. Low class, from Queens, not the nice part, and go on back to where you came from, except he's not going back. He has to go to Florida now. So I'm really glad to see the end of this error. I will enjoy tomorrow so much.
Can I just piggyback 1 second real quick? I'm so sorry, but I remember the first Christmas when Melania put up the decorations and they had all the pictures of her, and there were right-wing commentators who were like, she's like an angel. And that was like the headline on Breitbart.
Excuse me. Scott,
exactly.
Melania is going to be best, and she's going to walk out of the White House tomorrow morning with Donald Trump, and it's going to be unceremonious. Are you surprised that he's not going to be? I mean, are you surprised that he won't be there to facilitate this peaceful transfer of power? And also, what do you think in terms of his life post presidency? Oh, also, I wanted to ask you. So Ebony touched on this. Is that sure. He is going to go to Mar-a-Lago in Florida, where his neighbors are currently suing him because they don't want him to live there. They don't want him there. And they're suing to prevent him because of a contract that he had from the 1990s saying that he would never use the Mar-a-Lago estate as his primary residence. So what are your thoughts on his exit and his life presidency?
I think, the other day, I kind of go back to our mayor, Robert Garcia, sent out a tweet that he was like stunned and shocked that Donald Trump's not going to attend it. I was like, are you really that surprised? Because I'm not. I think he's definitely shown us the type of person he is. He's tried to hide it through many actions and different ways of kind of trying to blind the American people. So to answer that question briefly, no, I'm not surprised that he's not going to go, because he's a narcissist and it's not about him and it's about him leaving. So that totally makes sense in his brain why he wouldn't do that. I mean, obviously with the events of this past week, it would be way more awkward now than it would have been in the past before the insurrection. So that definitely doesn't surprise me, and I'm not sure why it shocks a lot of people that he wouldn't be there, with kind of what we've seen from his legacy. And as far as him, retreating into Mar-a-Lago and his neighbors wanting to sue him, that's not surprising either. I think in a way, if we look at his history and how he's kind of like walked out on contractors, not paid a lot of people, he's in debt, with a lot of his projects and previous, and we obviously still haven't seen his taxes fully, and that's a whole nother issue. But what I'm ready for, and I know this is maybe petty, and petty is my favorite color. I am so ready to see him and every one of his cronies prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and to see Kamala Harris in that position. Obviously, she's not the district attorney or in charge of that, but she will definitely have a hand in that because that's her experience. And I think that's one of the number one reasons why I supported her, is because there was so much wrong and so much injustice that she was going to be the one to get in there and really clean house and really bring all these people to justice. So I am super excited to see all that. And maybe it's a little petty, but that's how I feel.
Petty looks good on you, girl. It looks good on you. And yeah, I mean, are we a country that values the rule of law or not? And has the Trump presidency put a dent in the concept of the rule of law as us being a nation of laws? Is he a person that's exempt from laws because of the nature of who he is? Because he's a thug? Because he's a thug and a mafia boss? We're going to actually turn the other cheek? This isn't partisan. This isn't politically influenced, or at least it shouldn't be. It should be about valuing the rule of law. And just because we have an entire political apparatus of the Republican Party that refuses to hold him accountable doesn't mean that it's objectively right to do so. So I agree with you, Scott. And I think we have to gird our loins against the accusation that such a pursuit would be partisan in nature, when it's really about protecting the country from maybe even a Democratic ruler who does this kind of thing in the future. It's about setting a precedent for the country by not acting, I think. So let's get Autumn. And would it be personally satisfying for me? Absolutely, because I'm a bitch too. I also care about the rule of law and democracy. So I can walk and chew gum at the same time. Yes, I'm going to be very, very gloaty about it, but I also believe in our democracy and think that we ought to protect it. Lester Aponte chiming in saying T-minus 14 hours. Good Lord.
Yes.
That's it.
Good. And yeah, some other comments. One it seems a little trolly. Kelsey says, I'll bring the popcorn to that petty party. Yes. Me, Scott, and Kelsey are going to have a petty party. And if you want to come, gird your pettiest outfit and let's get it going. All right?
I'm going to throw some M&Ms into that popcorn. So it's going to be real good.
Now that's a party. Nothing surprises us anymore, says Bobby. Yeah. So very, very good. Chime in with your comments if you're watching. Let us know how you're feeling about the end of the Trump presidency. Leave a comment, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, wherever you may be watching, and we'll bat around with you live on air. So the Biden era is kicking off with Joe and Jill leaving Delaware today, and Joe Biden gave a very emotional speech. And the line from that speech that is really resonating with everyone is, "When I die, Delaware will be written on my heart." I didn't get to watch this, but I heard about it. Jonathan, will you kind of recap the best of the highlights of the speech and why it's going so viral?
I mean, this is the president-elect who will be our president as of this time tomorrow, showing emotion, showing that he's a real person who understands his roots. He knows where he came from. He knows who helped him to get here. And he is doing his very best to not let those people down, to not let us down. We're the ones who really helped to push him and get him elected and to get Kamala elected. And I think that both of them really know that they're here for the people. That was, of course, Kamala's, campaign slogan, for the people. And to see these people actually understand that is the job that they have, is one thing. But also you have to remember, Joe Biden has been preparing for this for years. He has been running for president and preparing for this job for over 30 years. He started running in 1987 for the 88 campaign, and dropped out then, ran in 2008, dropped out, became the vice presidential nominee, and subsequently vice president. This is a pursuit that has taken him multiple years. He has been a lifelong public servant, so it's only fitting that he do this in his 70s. And of course, he was up there at a building that is named for his son Beau, and he remarked that he felt it could have been Beau who was there, but here we are in this moment, and here we are able to make change. And he cried, and to see a president cry is something that we are not used to. I don't know if we really saw Barack Obama shed tears in his time in office. It is a rarity. So to have someone who is our president, who is our leader, who shows empathy and shows emotion, it was just something that I think we were all really reminded that this is where we are.
I think we saw Barack Obama cry only when he was singing Amazing Grace after the shooting at the Emmanuel Church in South Carolina.
Maybe a tad with Sandy Hook too. He got a few tears in as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not saying he wasn't, emotional, but there is something very special about seeing our president show, that
colleagues in the Senate.
Yeah. Joe's an emotional guy, and it's that Scranton, just like real down home regular guy, that element that everybody loves about him. So it'll be nice to see. And he's like a grandpa, it's going to be lovely.
He's bringing his life experience into the presidency. Like, the tragedies that he's dealt with, he's felt that, and he knows what a lot of people are feeling right now in this country, in terms of the situations that we're in right now. So, I mean, to see him cry on TV like that, it hit me, it hit me hard.
Yeah. And I think that there was a lot made of Joe Biden's empathy. It was almost a campaign tactic to talk about his empathy. And I think as Americans, we were really thirsting for that. And as much as the Trump insurrectionists and the Republicans want us to believe that this was a very close election, it certainly was not. Joe Biden won more votes than any candidate in American history by many, many millions. He beat Barack Obama's total by a lot. Now, some of that was because the coronavirus pandemic required people to be at home, and voting was made more accessible by voting by mail. And there's more access because of the circumstance we found ourselves in. But part of it was also because people missed a person with empathy. And we do have a clip of Joe Biden's speech from Delaware. Let's play that for you all now, featuring the big line of the day.
Colleagues in the Senate used to always kid me for quoting Irish poets. They thought I did it because I'm Irish. I didn't do it for that reason. I did it because they're the best poets in the world. And James Joyce was said to have told a friend that when it comes his time to pass, when he dies, he said, Dublin will be written on my heart. Well, excuse the emotion, but when I die, Delaware will be written on my heart. And the hearts.
I don't know why it's making me emotional, because I've never been to Delaware, but it's got me good. It's got me good, and it's nice to have a person after 4 years of the bombast and the sociopath that we've had in the White House, literally with his finger on the nuclear code, and who's made decisions about our health and our livelihoods. To have somebody who is a feeling person who cares is deeply comforting for me, I got to tell you. So, it's very, very nice. And look, tomorrow will be the inauguration. There's the usual ceremonies and balls, and all of the usual fanfare has been curtailed back and canceled for safety. This will be a very different inaugural ceremony, given the security following the Capitol insurrection and because of the coronavirus pandemic. So, Jonathan, what do you think? Is it how do you feel about this inauguration not getting the full weight of festivity that it usually gets, the fanfare?
Personally, I'm bummed. We were gonna be there. We were planning on being there, and it's really kind of it's sad to not be part of that, but to know that there really isn't going to be the usual fanfare. I think that's something that we all really understand. This is a different moment. This is not a time for us to to party in spite of it. We know what's going on. And I do think that the people who are organizing are doing a fantastic job so far. I mean, we saw the hundreds of thousands of flags. I think it was like 200,000 flags. Maybe I'm making that number.
300,000.
Yeah, so hundreds of thousands of flags on the National Mall where people are supposed to stand with 56 beams of light kind of crossing, across the flags. Everything has its symbolism. And just because there aren't going to be as many people there at all, and because people are going to be spaced out while they're sitting behind the president and vice president when they take office, doesn't mean that this isn't going to be a beautiful moment. And I think that all the more, we're all stuck at home and we can all watch this and we can all be part of it. And I think that you're going to see a lot of people on social media tomorrow sharing this moment. And I think that this is something that we can really all be part of and all be really proud of. And I don't think that it takes away from the gravitas of the moment to have it be a little different.
Yeah. Ebony, thoughts on the inauguration tomorrow, and if it's taking something away, and have you seen the art installation that Jonathan was talking about?
Yes, it was beautiful and incredibly moving, and apparently you can see it from space. So, like, finally an acknowledgement of all we have lost, and that is what the current president just couldn't do because he thought that it reflected on him, and it did reflect on him. People I know who don't even really pay attention to politics, there are still a few of those people, are excited. People are dressing up. People took the day off tomorrow. People are watching with their kids. My students are all watching. Even Republican folks, and there are still a few decent ones, are watching because this has been like a really, really tough 4 years for everybody. I think people are just like excited to breathe a sigh of relief and be like Americans together to really honor the huge glass ceiling breaking that is Kamala White House. And I feel like that keeps getting overlooked because of everything else that's going on. But this is huge. Like, this is finally a ticket that looks like so many of our families with divorced and remarried stepkids and like a sister and, extended family, which so many of us have. It's really beautiful to watch. And Kamala's stepkids, Ella and Cole, did a New York Times interview just talking about sort of having her in their lives for the second part of their childhoods. And it was lovely. Just like I think the stepson Cole mentioned having to look at her prosecutor face when he was late for curfew. Like, she's a real person with folks who love her. And that's really, really exciting. Plus all those wonderful Biden grandkids. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, definitely. And Scott, we've got a couple comments, and I want you to kind of comment on the comments.
Yeah.
First one, Carmen says the COVID memorial was solemn and set a tone of mourning that we needed. I cried. I've been craving basic human decency. And the other, which I kind of want your thoughts on, is Noel's comment, which is praying for the safe inauguration tomorrow. Are you concerned about the insurrection and what kind of effect it might have on the inauguration ceremonies? Or are you feeling like this isn't that big of a deal? Because we know about 25,000 National Guard members are actually in DC now, more than we have in Afghanistan. So what are your thoughts on that?
There's always that thought in the back of your head of something happening. Obviously, with what we saw last week, we knew there were going to be protests and different things, but how did we have any idea that they were actually going to break down the doors of the Capitol? And we're minutes away from being in the chamber with senators and the speaker in both houses. It was insane. So I think security is definitely ramped up way more than it has. The Pentagon said that they were investigating all National Guard members, and they said that there were 2 that were removed that were concerned because of their ties to some right-wing groups. So, I feel pretty confident in what they're going to do and how they're going to be able to secure the grounds. Right now, from what I'm hearing from my friends in DC, that it's pretty much, all the streets are pretty much locked down. Everything's pretty much secure. There's gates everywhere. And there aren't going to be Unfortunately, and because the times aren't going to be a lot of people there in terms of a crowd, so I think it's going to be really easy to identify something if there are people that are gathering or trying to do something to interrupt the inauguration. So that in itself might be kind of a blessing in disguise at this point, so that there aren't crowds of Americans that could be potentially harmed. But I have confidence in our National Guard. I have confidence in our military, and I think that they're going to do the right thing and let this inauguration happen peacefully. I mean, and that's what I hope, at least. Obviously, I can't predict the future, but like I said, I have full confidence in the National Guard and the military. And moving forward with their leadership that's going to be in place, I think we're going to be in a much better situation with them.
Well said. And I hope that there's 9/11 style commissions into what happened at the 6th, because I think we're learning, and we're learning more and more as it happens, but really we're learning that there was possibly foreign financial backing of this event. We know that Trump campaign staffers were organizing the event. They have been running with this line that this was a grassroots event, but there were Trump 2020 staffers who were paid and organized this event on behalf of his campaign.
Yep.
We're learning a lot about the possible participation of members of Congress in this. Particularly, we're looking at you, Lauren Boebert from Colorado, freshman member of Congress, who was giving unauthorized Capitol tours the day before, which some are saying are reconnaissance missions for her rabid gun-toting base. And we're learning more about how there may have been members of the Capitol Police who were privy to or allowed the insurrection to happen. So while I do have faith in the National Guard, and I am also hoping there's no security issues tomorrow, I do think that we investigate it with the same ferocity you investigated Benghazi, and don't say you care about the rule of law unless you're willing to give it that much urgency.
Well, and it takes me back to the summer where the Black Lives Matter movement opened my eyes to a lot of things, but one thing in particular was white supremacy in the police forces, and how a lot of those police officers, and I'm not accusing all of them, obviously, but some of them were kind of taking the job and getting in there to kind of really incite racism. And I didn't really ever think about it that way. And that could be very true with the Capitol Police, and national security as well. So we've got to root that out.
Yeah, and Kelsey agrees with you. She says maybe we will finally combat white supremacy genocidal mania.
Yeah.
Violence we have faced for centuries. Carmen is chiming in to say Clarence Thomas's wife allegedly paid for 80 buses. So there needs to be a widespread look at
absolutely
who participated in this. But Jonathan, moving us right along, what can you tell us about this ceremony that's happening tonight? I know that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are set to, and their families are set to honor the 400,000 people who have died because of coronavirus at a ceremony tonight. Will you tell us a little more about what that ceremony is?
Yeah, so this happened earlier at the mall, in front of the reflecting pool, and it was actually it was something that was very touching, I think, to watch or to listen to, because it was brief enough, but it was remarks from both the vice president-elect and the president-elect on kind of this very moment. I mean, we've lost 400,000 people to COVID-19 in less than a year. It's just astonishing. They're taking the helm of an administration that completely failed this crisis. And this is, it was interesting to see Mike Pence say the other day that the Trump presidency has come and gone and they didn't get involved in any wars, but they fail to notice that they've been responsible for the deaths of more people than our modern wars have claimed. I mean, it is really upsetting to see that there are that many people who are not going to be with us in this change of administration, and to pay tribute to those people is finally having leaders who say, we see what's happening, we see what happened. And just that very thing, I think that we were so starved from that it became a very emotional moment. There was a nurse too who they had sing Amazing Grace. There was someone else who sang Hallelujah. and it was just it was a stunning tribute.
Absolutely. And we do have a little bit of video of Vice President-elect Kamala Harris speaking at this lighting ceremony this evening. And we'll play that for you guys now. Here's our incoming Vice President. Whew, God, it feels good. Kamala Harris.
Thank you, Cardinal Gregory, for that beautiful prayer. We gather tonight, a nation in mourning, to pay tribute to the lives we have lost. A grandmother or grandfather who was our whole world. A parent, partner, sibling, or friend who we still cannot accept is no longer here. And for many months, we have grieved by ourselves. Tonight, we grieve and begin healing together. Though we may be physically separated, we, the American people, are united in spirit. And my abiding hope, my abiding prayer, is that we emerge from this ordeal with a new wisdom, to cherish simple moments, to imagine new possibilities, and to open our hearts just a little bit more to one another.
Excuse me. So there's the incoming vice president talking about honoring one another. And what will the government look like tomorrow afternoon? After 12 p.m. tomorrow, we're going to have a new government. And Ebony, tomorrow is not just for Joe Biden. We've also got Alex Padilla taking Kamala Harris's Senate seat. We've got John Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock being sworn into their Senate seats out of Georgia and giving Democrats control of the United States Senate and the entire government. What are your thoughts on that?
Again, I think this new face of the Senate has sort of been downplayed because of everything else, but this is huge. Those two Georgia wins were huge. We have a millennial in the Senate. We have a pastor from Martin Luther King's church in the Senate, a progressive religious Black man from the South. Like, that is huge. And we have our tie-breaking senator from California. We have a new senator from California, our former Secretary of State, whose parents were like farm workers. This is amazing. And I always roll my eyes when people talk about sort of, the American dream and all of that. But we do see these stories of people who come to this country and their parents bust their asses to improve lives for their kids. And then we see those people taking leadership in our country. So I'm really excited for Alex Padilla. He's got a great reputation. He's going to work hard. And tomorrow government looks really different, and we're going to hold these folks accountable, and we're going to make them do all the amazing things that they promised us they would do for us.
You had better. And a little bit of a sneak peek that tomorrow Stonewall will be releasing our own statement and our calls on the next president and vice president of, congratulating them and also letting them know what our expectations are. Now that we've put them there in this office, now it's really time to get to work. The work is just beginning. So I think that's a really good point. Ebony. Now, Scott, the majority leader, Chuck Schumer, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, just thought
I love that you can say that.
Rub that in, Mitch. Mitch better have my money. And Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, let it roll off of your tongue a little bit, Mitch. They are coming up with a power sharing agreement, and the details of that are being ironed out because basically there's a 50-50 split in the Senate, although Democrats will technically have control because Kamala Harris will be the tie-breaking vote in the Senate. So what are your thoughts on this? What does this mean for the future of the United States Senate and the power structure there?
Well, I think in terms of what we need to get done and how we're going to really make sure we're doing it in a timely manner, to have control of all three houses now, like the presidency, the Congress, and the House, like that's huge. I mean, I can't remember a time when we did have control of all three, and maybe someone can go back in history and tell me, but not in the time where I was really politically charged in the past 5 and 6 years. So
2001, George W. Bush was the last time Democrats had total control.
Okay.
So,
but George W. was a Republican, so that was
you mean all three? So
yeah,
it would have been 2008 Obama.
Okay. So not that long ago, but I think, in terms of the damage that's been done and all the crazy things that have happened to just deteriorate what American values are, we need to really get back on track. And this next year is going to be a lot of damage control. And I think we need to realize that, that we need to hold our administration to expectations, but we also need to, realize there's going to be a timeline and know that everything's not going to happen overnight, but to have control of these houses is huge. And for Chuck Schumer, the struggle that he's been through trying to, fight in the Senate and with Mitch McConnell in charge, like God bless all of those senators that had to deal with that. 'Cause man, that's a lot. And now that he's out of power and kind of sitting down and all of a sudden today he's all talking about Trump and, that the president incited this insurrection. And it's like, now the last day you decide to come out and talk ill about Trump. Okay. That's not going to get you any credibility, or that's not getting you anywhere. And it's still hard for me to fathom that, people in Kentucky would choose him over Amy McGrath, but, here we are and what we got to deal with. But, Stacey Abrams, our goddess of Georgia did her work among her and her staff and everybody else that was there. Yeah, absolutely. All hail Stacey Abrams. And, we have control of those houses, and it's going to be huge to get what we need to get done and to really repair, the interiors of the government and get everything kind of working like a well-oiled machine again.
Yeah, it sort of chapped my ass a little bit to hear that they're going to be sharing power. Democrats are so, the Republicans, they get a little bit of power and they govern like it. They got a mandate. They're going to do what they want. Jonathan, what do you think about this power share and hearing this news today that they're going to be negotiating how they're going to split authority in the Senate?
So I'm going to push back a little bit, because really what that is a parliamentary kind of procedure, that because there's a 50-50 split, you do kind of have to come up with an agreement on how things are going to happen, because you don't really have the majority. Yes, you have a tie break, and yes, you do set the agenda, but you have to figure out how bills come out of committees, and what those votes look like. So essentially, this kind of agreement would make it so that a tied vote, which is very likely that we're going to have a lot of nominees, we're going to have a lot of legislation, we're going to have a lot of things come out of committee with a tied vote, which would stall it in the committee traditionally, but under this agreement, it would actually move that forward to the floor. So I think it's important that we do put those rules out there in order to make sure that we have the majority. So I think that it actually is something that's helping for Democrats to assert the authority in a 50-50 chamber, which is a very rare kind of insane thing that we never thought would happen. And it's great that we have it, but yeah 50-50.
I want to correct something that I said earlier. So the last time that there was a 50-50 split in the Senate was 2001 when George W. Bush took office. The last time Democrats had full control of the government was 2008 when Obama was elected, although we did lose that, as Jane is pointing out in the comments, right away because there was a resignation in the House, and then the midterms where we dropped the ball, and I hope we learned that lesson from history and never do that again.
I think we learned a lot of lessons in the past couple of years.
Telling me. So, Ebony, so Biden's going to take office tomorrow. He's laid out a pretty aggressive agenda for his first 100 days and even his first weekend as president. So it's going to be a packed few days. What are your thoughts on what you're hearing as some of the major items that he's going to get done by executive action? And have you heard anything that's very heartening to you right off the bat?
So I don't know exactly what the plan is for student loan relief, but I know that something is still in the works, and whatever it is, 5K, 10K, 20K, it'll be a lot for the people who are in that situation, which I am, and probably all of us are. So I will take $10 because that will help. And then I'm just excited to have somebody who can have a real conversation with Dr. Fauci without him having to make those faces. Like the vaccine rollout and working between the federal and the state and local is going to be amazing without having to like kowtow and assuage feelings and like double talk for someone who's trying to like screw it up. I'm really excited about that. And when you see Dr. Fauci doing interviews, he seems relieved, which makes me relieved because I don't know anything about science, but it seems like it's going to work well. So I'm excited about those things. Those are like practical things that are going to happen right away.
A couple things. First, tomorrow by executive order, Joe Biden will suspend student loan payments. The length of this is unclear right now. Some say through the duration of the coronavirus pandemic. Some are saying through September of this year. Either way, he will continue the forbearance that's been in place since last March and potentially cancel up to $10,000. I want to note that that's really not enough because you're just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. There's a reason that it's become a crisis, and you need to solve the systemic problems, and that's a conversation for later. But other actions that he's going to take right away are sort of up in the air. We've heard a lot of reporting about it. Scott, what are your thoughts on sort of the first 100 days? 100 million vaccines. 100 days. That's a big one. And we're going to hear a little more about that tomorrow. But Scott, what are your thoughts on his aggressive agenda coming in, hitting the ground running?
Oh, well, I think it's what we need to do. In all actuality, I mean, like I said before, the first year is going to be a ton of damage control. So he rolled out that was a $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package and all the things that needed to happen that the administration previously failed on. I haven't heard much about it lately, but I know he talked about, mandating 100 days of wearing a mask to get the pandemic under control, which that should have happened. And that should have never been politicized, and we're having, arguments about it and people bum rushing grocery stores trying to claim that it's their lawful right to go in without wearing a mask. And, it's just those sorts of things right now, I think are really going to start to come down to the new administration having clear communication with the American people. I can go back to, I don't know if you ever saw a video, I think it was put out on Vox on YouTube of New Zealand's response to the pandemic and what they did and the level of communication and things that went through the government there and the way, they're not as big as we are. And I understand, they don't have as many people here, but my God, you'd watch the video and just like, look at yourself and go, and we live in this country that can't even get a pandemic under control, and they got it under control in a couple months, and I think that's what's going to really be key within the first 100 days of the administration, is going to be the coronavirus relief and the rescue and relief. And, just like I said, a lot of damage control, rejoining the Paris Agreement. I could ramble on for 45 minutes about all the things we need to fix, but, all those things in a row, he's got his ducks in a row. And now that we have all the aces in places, so to speak, it's time to get to work.
Yeah. And Jonathan, so Scott just touched on it, but in the first couple of days, he's planning on rejoining to the Paris Climate Agreement. He's looking to extend a pause on federal student loan payments and interest, extend the ban on evictions and foreclosures as a result of the pandemic, reverse Trump's travel ban to some Muslim majority nations, which is important to me as I have family in the country of Iran, an executive order requiring masks on federal property and for interstate travel, and a bunch of others. Plus, he's going to start pushing the $1.9 trillion coronavirus economic relief package, which is going to include money for local governments, which is extremely needed. It's going to include a vaccination distribution strategy, which has been lacking from the federal government, this Operation Warp Speed. I mean, personally speaking, I'm extremely angry and frustrated by the vaccine rollout. And it's been a month and we need to have vaccinated more people. So what are your thoughts on his aggressive agenda coming down the pipeline?
So I think politically, first of all, it's incredibly smart for Biden to approach COVID relief as its own entity before budget reconciliation. I want to remind everybody that budget reconciliation is the thing that happens every year between the president and Congress, in which the budget gets passed. It has a simple majority, so 51 votes, and it goes. And traditionally, we pack everything that you can possibly pack into that bill, and that is usually the big agenda-setting piece. This year, we would have two opportunities to do that because Donald Trump did not have a budget reconciliation for 2021. So there will be a budget reconciliation for this year, and then a budget reconciliation towards the end of the year. So for Biden to come forward and say this is the most pressing issue right now is COVID-19, is relief around COVID-19, a vaccination distribution plan, a treatment plan, making sure that governments get the aid that they need in order to distribute the vaccinations and in order to educate the public and to steer people the right way, to get testing done. This is all stuff that just hasn't been done. So he's putting this out there because it is absolutely necessary that it happens. And I know there's going to be Republican pushback, but there are also several Republicans who understand the situation that we're in. And I think he has a lot of leverage to make a lot of things happen here. On top of that, executive orders and executive actions, I mean, the list is incredibly long that he's put out. So, I mean, the guy's not messing around. I think that this administration is getting off on the right foot. It's going to be really exciting this time tomorrow just to see the things that have already been put in place. And then, of course, we'll have another day on Thursday for him to do even more. So it's just very exciting to see us hit the ground running. And I mean, he's really going for it.
Yeah, and we've already gotten to work on his cabinet appointments. Today on Capitol Hill, the Senate confirmation hearings of his major picks have already begun. Ebony, we had national security, economy nominees giving testimony on the Hill today. Janet Yellen, the Secretary of State nominee, Anthony Blinken, Alexander Mayorkas for Department of Homeland Security, all giving testimony on the Hill. And what are your thoughts on this? I mean, we're moving really quick before Biden's even inaugurated on some of these appointees. And is it a little awkward that the confirmation hearings are happening before he's even sworn in?
We've got to get started. We've got to get to work. I am quite shocked at Josh Hawley's critiques of Mayorkas. Like, who is he right now to think he has a leg to stand on with anything? Like, he's real bold with it. We're going to have to be really, really right away, like just putting him in his place, reminding him of what he did, and checking him over and over again. He has no leg to stand on with talking about Mayorkas is too liberal or too this or too that. Really, Mr. Hawley, you're lucky you found that Nazi Books Are Us to publish your book and go sit down and be quiet right now. His behavior is really quite shocking. I hope that Biden comes to the defense of Mayorkas, and he should get everybody that he wants in this cabinet taking a look at what happened on January 6th. So really, Josh Hawley, settle down right now.
Yeah, Senator Hawley, the next time you complain about national security.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear why Josh Hawley wants to why he wants to hold up any nominee for Homeland Security or national security, right?
Because he's actively trying to.
He did it. Yeah.
Prevent our national security.
Yeah.
Scott, what do you think of? And by the way, Scott, the calls for Scott for not your resignation, for Josh Hawley's resignation have continued to grow. This drumbeat has not quieted. What are your thoughts on Hawley holding up potential confirmation votes under the pretext of caring about national security?
It's really at this point, like touching what Emily said, it's all to save face, and he's just trying to kind of, scrap up whatever credibility he thinks he has in his back pocket to, look good to his colleagues and to his constituents. And it's like, we all know what you did. We all know where you side, and you and your little friend Ted Cruz can kick rocks. I don't know how they're going to go, how it's going to go right now in terms of, prosecutions and investigations and things that are going to be brought up in regard to the insurrection. But I'm pretty sure a couple of those senators, we're going to see them pack their bags right out of the Capitol in the coming weeks, if not months.
Your lips to God's ears, Scott.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
We'll have a little petty party about it. We'll celebrate. It'll be fantastic with M&M popcorn. Oh, Kurt.
Yeah, Mama Kamala is not going to mess around. Let's just put it that way.
That was a callback joke as a person who, as a comedian and actor. Yeah. That was a callback.
That's a great demonstration. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you guys were running out of time. It is that time of the episode for us to open the library to read somebody for filth. This is our opportunity to get on our soapbox, to speak from the heart, to read someone for filth, and put your reading glasses on because the library is open. I'd like to start this week with Ebony Murphy-Root. Ebony, who would you like to read this week?
This is tough, but I want to give a shout out to my pals at Rich Media. The magazine's 25 years old, so shout out to everybody doing that work, writing really, really radical progressive stuff. My read this week is to Lara Trump and all of the other lesser B Trumps who really thought that they were going to benefit from these 4 years and are now kind of trying to pivot and figure out what they're going to do. So Lara Trump is Eric's wife. She's from North Carolina. She's 38. She went to state school. She married Eric. She rides horses. She got her brother, Kyle, a job with the Department of Energy. And now she thinks she might run for Senate in her home state of North Carolina. And girl, no, okay, you may not run for Senate in North Carolina. Please just don't make a fool of yourself, because if this woman runs, we will bring the full weight of the Democratic Party to find somebody really, really amazing to run against her. Just the fact that these folks think that their Trump orbit puts them in sort of the top tier of American power lets me know that they have no idea how angry we liberals are. Yes, we may only have lattes. Yes, we may not, have guns, but we are angry. We will write letters. We will donate, and we will, delegate you to the trash heap of American history. So Lara Trump, Tiffany, others, do not run. Make like Vanessa Trump did and leave quietly before you get more embarrassed.
Lara Trump is Ebony Murphy-Root's read of the week. Scott, who would you like to read this week? The library is open.
Awesome. First, I wanted to share a quick shout out and something I saw on Twitter this morning. As you wake up and you browse and you look at things, and I think this is one of the best things I've seen so far. And the tweet reads, "This entire impeachment trial should just be Katie Porter whiteboarding everyone until they crack." So in terms of her, I think she gets overlooked a lot. So shout out to Katie Porter for whiteboarding most of Trump's appointees and making them feel like the preschoolers that they are. And in terms of anyone I want to call out, man, I was, again, going across Twitter a little bit today, and I came up on a picture of the Trump family at the RNC, which, again, was completely illegal to hold that whole convention on the White House grounds. And I saw a picture of Melania in that lime green dress. And I don't know about y'all. I was thinking about QAnon and all these other conspiracy websites. And you know what? The real conspiracy is, I think we need to find the people or the homosexuals that were in charge of Melania's wardrobe, because that was a big conspiracy to make her look like that all the time, and actually give them a reward, because they really did some justice to her this last 4 years. So thank you, Melania Trump, for all of your fashion faux pas.
Yes. I don't really care. Do you? Jonathan Welch, the library's open. I know that you're going to give us a little bit of a lesson today. Who would you like? Get on your soapbox. Give us your read.
I just want to congratulate Tiffany Trump on her engagement. I'm just kidding. I don't. I actually don't at all. Bad timing. Listen, I want to tonight channel, instead of doing like a full read, I want to channel my best Michael Beschloss and talk a little bit about how my entire life I was obsessed with history and presidential history, White House history. I had picture books when I was a little kid. I was very into it. I was able to talk about presidential history off the cuff as a little kid, very weird little kid. So I've always really loved that. And as a result, I think, of loving history, whenever I go to museums, as a byproduct, I love a gift shop. You know, I love the merch. I have tonight. I share that with my sister-in-law, who bought me this mug from the Mass Audubon Society. We tried to go to their gift shop, but they were closed. So she bought me the mug for Christmas. So I had a little something to hold on to there. I think about her son, my nephew, who, if he's anything like me, he might like some of this stuff when he grows up. But I remember back when I was a little kid and I had a presidential placemat, and you were able to see all of the presidents of the United States on your placemat. And one of the thoughts that I had in 2017 was, oh my God, Donald Trump is going to be on these placemats for kids like my nephew, for little kids like all my friends' kids. I will never have kids, but if I did, I want them to have the placemat, and unfortunately, this man's face is going to be on it. I'm just thrilled that we're through this period. You know, I thought about the Andrew Johnsons and the Andrew Jacksons and the Richard Nixons. I was not alive to understand their presidencies, to know how we felt during those times, to see if, you know, we as Americans were ashamed of those presidencies, of those people being in office, and how we recovered from that and how we treat it. So, my thought is that it is time for us to put Trump, his entire presidency, on a shelf, away with some of those awful presidents. He may very well be the worst when all the historians meet to determine who the best and who the worst are. They do that every 4 years or so. They're about to do it again. So I think that we will see that he is ranking pretty low. But I want to leave you guys with talking about merch, talking about the gift shops. One little thing, I got this in the mail from the White House Historical Association. It's their ornament sale. I collect the White House Christmas ornaments. It is a bipartisan or nonpartisan organization that is dedicated to preserving the museum that is the White House, the people's house. And usually it works in concert with the First Lady. And the past few years, I've bit my lip and I've thought, like, ugh, this goes towards the organization. It doesn't go towards Melania. So when I buy my Christmas ornament, my commemorative ornament from the White House Historical Association, it doesn't go to her, but I'm holding my purchase until tomorrow because they're doing their sale until the end of the month. And I'm holding that purchase until Jill Biden is the first lady associated with working with the White House Historical Association. And I am just so glad that we can put this piece behind us. And I hope that that's how we move forward, and we can give those placemats to our kids, to my nephew, to your children, and maybe we'll just have to get a Sharpie marker and scribble him out, make it an orange one at that. But here's to the end of 4 miserable years.
Hear, hear. Thank you, Jonathan Welch, for that lovely, lovely read. So I've been reflecting a lot on what tonight really means to me, because in just a few short hours, Donald Trump, after long last, will no longer be president. And our national nightmare, at least for those of us with a beating heart and empathy, is going to be over. And it was 4 years ago that I filtered out of the Javits Center in New York City at Hillary Clinton's election night party with my heart broken in my hands, and so scared for what it meant, because we had been listening to what he had been saying. We had heard his demagoguery. We had heard his racism. We had heard his misogyny. We witnessed it. And yet somehow he had risen to power and taken the highest office in our land. And I was heartbroken that night. And I was really broken that night that it could happen. And I couldn't come to terms with how it was that the country that I love could elect him, how the bully could win, how the bad guy could win, and how 50% of the country just didn't see it the way that I did. And that was really difficult for me to reconcile. And he gave an inauguration speech 4 years ago tomorrow, about American carnage. And tomorrow, Donald Trump will leave behind a country that is more broken, poorer, sicker, and more divided than when he got here. and he's going to leave behind 400,000 dead Americans because of a pandemic that his fecklessness and his ineptitude prevented him from really being able to handle. And maybe he just didn't care. Maybe he just didn't care. And when he got it, he got the best treatment in the world while hundreds of thousands of others just have died. More Americans have died because of the coronavirus pandemic than all of our foreign wars combined. And it's not just coronavirus that left behind dead Americans. History will regard Donald Trump's failures in Puerto Rico, the deaths in Puerto Rico that caused the San Juan mayor, Carmen Yulin Cruz, to call it a genocide. 3,000 plus Americans dead because of the federal government's ineptitude in responding to that tragedy. History will regard his failures to respond to the gun violence epidemic after people were shot in Las Vegas, or when those high schoolers were slaughtered in Parkland, Florida, and the president did nothing. History will regard his repealing the children's health insurance program and taking away health insurance from 9 million children as his failures, as his legacy. They will regard his botched military operation in Yemen just days after his inauguration that left 25 civilians dead, including a 3-month-old baby, for no reason. No actionable intelligence was gathered, and yet he did it, and he did it with reckless aplomb. History will regard his failures and his legacy as death to America. He campaigned on Make America Great Again, but really his legacy is death to America. And the good news is that we're still here. America survived. Our institutions held. People turned out. People rose up. People used their voices. And while we may want to put the Trump presidency on a shelf and say goodbye to it tomorrow at noon forever, the reality is that the repercussions of the last 4 years are going to be with us for a generation. And it's going to take work. It's going to take work and dedication and commitment to democracy and commitment to loving one another and our neighbors and towards actual healing, which may involve having to get mental health treatment, the recognition that it deserves, to acknowledge that we are in the midst of a mental health crisis in this country that led people to be so consumed by misinformation and propaganda and so whipped up into a frenzy that they were willing to sacrifice their lives to overthrow the American government under the pretext of it being patriotism. That's a problem. And it's going to take programming, and it's going to take work, and our work is just ahead of us, and we have really pressing existential issues that are still facing us. We have a pandemic at reaching its peak. We've got a global crisis with climate change, and the problems amount. But what I do know is that tomorrow morning and tomorrow at noon, we can have faith again, and hope again, and optimism again, and we can look forward to the future finally. So, God bless Joe Biden. God bless Kamala Harris. God bless the United States of America.
Hallelujah.
And that's my read.
Testify.
Thank you all so much for joining the Read Down. This has been the Read Down, your weekly progressive political hot take by the Stonewall Democratic Club. If you're interested in learning more about Stonewall or joining, you can visit us at stonewalldems.org/join and become a member today for only $25 a year. I want to thank all of you at home for watching, and I want to thank my co-hosts today. Please, round of applause for Jonathan Welch. Thank you, Jonathan. Our beautiful co-host, Ebony Murphy Root. Here.
Lady Vice President!
The candle made it true.
Yes, and our very special guest panelist this week, Scott Ruiz. Thank you, Scott, for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
We will be back.
Scott.
We will be back next week with a new president and a new vice president, and it couldn't have come soon enough. Thank you all for joining, and this has been The Read Down. Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night.